It's your boy Dance, and we are back with another video. Today we're actually reacting to level cap. I haven't reacted to level cap in quite some time, so we're trying to make sure we get that going, get that flowing. You feel me? He actually got his hands on. I'm not sure if he got his hands on or if he's just taking footage from someone else. But there's a game called Vanguard. There's gameplay and there's some details he's gonna give us. We're gonna check this out, see how we feel about this, and we'll go from there. If there's something specifically that you guys want to see, you let me know down below. It can be whatever it is you want to see. Like I said plenty of times, I've been on the rise of working on role play in GTA. Recently bought GTA for PC. I will be making footage of that very, very soon. Be very prepared for that. Anyways, let's get this like here, and then let's get this video on the road.
Vanguard is a sci-fi FPS being developed in Unreal Engine 5 that is set within the world of EVE Online. You know, the massive multiplayer spaceship game. It just got a new trailer showing more details, and from a production quality standpoint,
I have no idea what EVE Online is. I'm gonna be real with y'all. If y'all know what that is, let me know down below, please and thank you.
Things are looking pretty good. But this isn't CCP Games' first attempt at creating an FPS crossover for the EVE Online universe. Their first attempt, called Dust 514, unfortunately didn't stand the test of time, and EVE Vanguard appears to be taking a significantly different approach. Let's check it out. Alright, so announced...
So far from the gameplay I've already seen in the first 35 seconds, it looks pretty trash, but let's continue.
In September of last year, EVE Vanguard is a PvPvE extraction shooter that continues in Dust 514's footsteps, but focuses the experience down to the basics. You spawn in, fight for resources, and then extract. The galactic politics and the economy of EVE Online aren't directly connected to Vanguard. At least they won't be when the game initially launches. In the meantime though, the game has been available for a few playtests for EVE Omega subscribers off and on this year. The latest playtest concluded on July 1st, and players have been able to learn a lot from it. So what does a match for a sci-fi FPS based on EVE Online actually look like? Well, kind of straightforward despite its spaceship connections. In the main menu before queuing up, aka your hangar, you have the option to customize your weapon attachments and cosmetics. Weapons in Vanguard aren't actually distinct guns. Instead, they're loadouts that modify your base weapon platform. Essentially, you get two weapons that serve as your primary and secondary gun in each map, and each loadout gives you spaces for 5 different weapon chipsets.
This game looks like a snooze fest. I'm not trying to be super negative on it, but it's giving me very average and generic. I don't know. Nothing about this is appealing right now. Maybe a few things. The gun color there is cool.
And one scope. The chipset system is pretty interesting. It offers stat buffs and debuffs. Low tier chips will have at least one of each, so something that makes your gun better, like increased rate of fire, but also a decrease like lower damage rating and even potentially more negative attributes. So at the low tier, you're probably going to have to do a lot of strategizing on how to get the best bang for your buck out of those chipsets. And as far as I can tell, these chipsets seem to be the main component of progression. So some chipsets will just be unlocked in your hangar as you play, but you can also loot chipsets during a match. They're also lost if you die or fail to extract during a match. And unfortunately,
so far, I'm seeing a space game where you have a gun and you can shoot things. This is just me looking. No details. Let's take out the details that he's also already added. But customize your gun color-wise. Change some little stats on it. As far as that goes, so far, this is about as basic and generic a game when it comes to space shooters right now. We have plenty of games that already do like a lot of this. You got Destiny, you have Starfield, you have First Descendant at this point. There's plenty of outer space games that you can customize a gun, you can shoot enemies. So far right now, I'm unimpressed. Let's go.
Fortunately, you can't.
It sounds like I'm being a tough judge on this video specifically, but this video, I don't know, it's not pulling me at all.
loot chipsets from dead players, even if they're left behind in a match. That said, dead players will drop all of their resources that you can loot off of them in a fight. So there's still good reason to kill other players, even if you can't directly loot all of their top end gear. Now, Vanguard supports up to 3 players per squad, and you can either squad up with friends before a match or potentially team up with players in-game via the VoIP system. That is, if they don't try and kill you. And once you're in a match, you'll be given a list of contracts that you can
So they can try to kill you. So that's different. Okay. I respect that. That's a difference.
accept and complete to earn credits that are applied directly to your hangar. So if you complete a mission but then die, you'll still get those credits. There's also map-wide contracts like mining right events that all players are alerted to when they begin, and all players can then fight over them. Looted resources and credits will need to be banked at specific banking stations, which have their locations marked on the map for all players to see, or they need to be successfully extracted to make it out of the match with you. As long as you have clones.
This game looks like an Xbox One PS4 game. It does not look next gen. Doesn't even look PC. Sadly.
In reserve to respawn with, you can keep completing and accepting new contracts. And yeah, that's right, you're a clone, just like in EVE Online. And I like that there's actually a lore reason as to why you can come back after death. You get a little extra flexibility.
I respect that. I'm given a reason for respawns. And the cutscenes look cool, but they don't match the game at all.
With some of these sci-fi shooters. Now, when it comes to your clones, you can buy new clones with biomass, a lootable resource found in containers throughout a match or from AI NPCs and dead players. Each clone costs 100 biomass, and every time you die in a match, you have a choice of respawning as a clone if you have any in reserve, or just leaving the match. If you run out of clones, your gear and loot will be lost unless it was banked before you died. To buy new clones, you need to deposit biomass into a clone bank and then choose to buy a new one.
So there's your difference right there. We got some clones. We have some form of difference in the game. That's what was bothering me so far. I was just like, I've seen this before. I'm not interested at all. But the clone bank and the having clones to get your stuff back from this extraction game mode, essentially that's what I think it is. I think that's what he called it. I can't remember. But I don't know, it's just not keeping my interest as far as everything else goes, but the clone aspect makes it, you know, a little different.
Clones are also a shared resource for your whole squad, so if you have 3 players but only 1 clone in reserve, then only one of those players can respawn after death. This is definitely an interesting mechanic for an extraction shooter, and I do like games that reward you for going out, being aggressive, getting loot and biomass, I guess in this case. So hopefully that mechanic works out as intended. It'll also be interesting if a player that's more aggressive with looting and gaining biomass gets killed by a camper. If they're able to come back and just essentially flank that camper, since they'll know where they're hiding from. It might make the camping dynamic something where more players are going to need to stay agile and move around more. Now, some of the resources, nanites, that you loot can be used during a match to craft ammo and additional equipment. Ammo also comes in 2 varieties, kinetic and electromagnetic. This is kind of a crossover from EVE Online with using different weapon types to hurt different enemies. Some of the equipment that's been shown off so far is a dome shield and a proximity mine. You'll also need to craft the beacon that calls in your extraction. Crafting is done on the fly, so once you start crafting something, you can carry on walking around and fighting as the little crafting timer counts down. When it comes to combat, nothing really stands out as being too crazy. When you ADS, you'll get a heads-up display that highlights all visible enemies, both AI and players, in red, and it also tells you the damage type that they're weakest to. If an enemy is behind cover, they won't be highlighted or scannable. However, there is a proximity scanner that can detect enemies through cover and mark their location on your HUD as a red circle. In addition to weapons, you also have a mining laser that can be used to gather natural resources and open escape pods. The gameplay for this is still in the gray box phase, so it's unclear how extensive these mechanics will be built into the game, but I kind of like the idea of it. The gunplay seems fairly straightforward. Hipfire is accurate enough to kill somebody at medium range, but aiming will of course improve your accuracy. Sustained fire will massively reduce your accuracy, promoting more burst firing, and the TTK does look to be pretty quick and aggressive. Players have a shield and 100 hit points of health. Health doesn't regen and is instead restored via healing items that you have to craft during a match. Now,
I'll be honest, I'm not playing this game, but I can see after getting more detail on it, how it could be an interesting extraction game mode. For me, it's still not really moving the needle, I guess you could say.
Like a lot of extraction shooters, you'll be fighting against both other players and NPCs. The NPCs will be littered around the map, usually in groups, and lots of them will spawn at the more challenging mission locations. In addition to players and NPCs, there's also going to be environmental hazards like pools of ice that'll slow and eventually damage you over time if you stand in them. They don't seem like huge components of the gameplay, but maybe they're going to act more like environmental blockers to design combat flow and force people into certain choke points. Now, once you're satisfied with the loot that you've collected and the contracts you've completed, you can use an extraction beacon, assuming you've crafted one, that can be placed anywhere on the map at any time to leave the match. This is a pretty big difference from having to go to a very specific location to get out.
Okay.
Once you're back in the hangar, you can use the resources that you gathered to unlock specific
So you just craft your extraction and drop it. That's cool, I guess. It's all right. I don't know, man. It's just certain aspects of this. I'm just like, this it's boo boo.
cosmetic item.
Not very appealing of a game either. It looks like last gen, so PC or not, it looks pretty crappy graphic wise. I've had nothing but bad things to say besides the clone situation and the fact that it's an extraction. So I can see it being interesting in that aspect, getting rewarded for being aggressive and looting and stuff like that. But I don't know. Excuse me. It's not impressive at all to me.
Oddly,
And I get it. It's playtest. You may not have the footage that you guys are looking for, but boo boo.
doesn't seem like there's anything that you can actually buy with the credits you earn during a match that would give you a gameplay advantage, like additional clones, ammo, armor, gadgets, etc. that you could bring with you. The only customized items that you can bring into a match are your primary and secondary weapons, and the upgrades for those, as far as I'm aware, need to be primarily looted during a match. It's an interesting system for sure that definitely steers clear of some of the pay-to-win stuff that many of the other looter shooters have gone so aggressively for. Now, as for how Vanguard will connect with EVE, it's somewhat unclear right now. One of the big problems with Dust 514 was that the volatility of EVE Online's economy and power struggles had a huge impact on the actual balance of the FPS. Dust was more team-focused, with different orgs grouping up in big battles to contest objectives, so a well-funded group of players could absolutely dominate a match. And the impact of EVE's overall economy and balance of power, it kind of felt like you weren't really doing much in Dust by comparison. So if you really wanted to change the EVE Online universe, you were going to have a lot more success doing it in a spaceship. This time around, it looks like the devs are being very cognizant of the problems with their last game and are trying not to repeat the same mistakes. The in-universe lore is that you're playing as an infomorph.
I'm gonna be real. Even if they don't make the same mistakes, I have very little hope in this game.
Control clones called, you guessed it, Vanguards. When playing EVE Online, the pilots in the game are called Capsuleers, so it's basically like having two distinct roles within the universe and their own gameplay focuses and progression. At launch, there won't be a ton of interconnection between Vanguard and EVE Online, but the devs are planning on implementing post-launch mechanics like Capsuleers being able to put out contracts that infomorphs can complete. There's also plans to have some of the maps dynamically reflect some of the space combat going on, I guess, in the atmosphere, with debris of destroyed ships from PvP space battles falling onto the planets, and then they can be looted and fought over. So eventually you might even be able to do crazy stuff like loot the resources on your ship that you lost in a space battle once you join up on foot. But that seems like it might be significantly further down the road. For now, the maps are handcrafted arenas based on the planets in EVE and isolated from the player-driven events of the game. There's also hints that the devs will use procedural generation to build tons of maps based on...
See, this looks better. Whatever this version of the game is,
planets that
it looks slightly more appealing. I don't know what, I guess that was the playtest they were showing earlier, but that looked slightly more appealing. I'm not gonna say much more. The game still looks pretty bland. Looks like they leave a lot on the table. It doesn't show too much stuff that I'm actually even interested in personally. If I want to play a space shooter, I'll just play Starfield, or I get it, Starfield doesn't have multiplayer, so I'll get on Destiny or First Descendant or something like that. First Descendant doesn't either, but I can see them adding it to First Descendant. and the game actually has some versatility. This game, not so much.
Will then be carefully curated by hand for gameplay balance. Now, out of all the gameplay I've seen of Vanguard, it looks pretty competent. The combat mechanics and contract system seems well thought out, but it's tough to say if earning resources and weapon mods will be enough to create a truly engaging gameplay loop. The depth of gear, reputation increases, permanent stat bonuses, and more creates a huge incentive in the other extraction shooters to keep players playing and improving their character. Vanguard almost seems like extraction shooter light by comparison. It's hard to say.
Exactly. It's just like, it doesn't seem like it's enough in it to hold anybody for a long period. I can see it dying out pretty quickly
without playing it though, and it might actually just end up being a more inviting game thanks to what seems like a more equal footing approach to loading into a match. Now, all that said, Vanguard isn't just an extraction shooter, at least it's not supposed to be after launch. Updates will connect it more and more to the massive world of EVE Online, and the devs have stated that they're starting small to nail the core mechanics and systems first. So at this point, it's really hard to try and envision the full concept of Vanguard. It really, in most ways, is just similar to other extraction shooters at the moment.
Exactly. There's nothing special about this, and I think the issue now is we've seen gameplay of this so early that I'm judging it based off of this. Like, if you gave me something more, then we could talk. But right now, this looks pretty blah meh.
One day it could be a massive and vital component of EVE Online in a similar way to the FPS systems in a game like Star Citizen. But who knows how things will end up. After all, EVE has been going strong for over 20 years at this point with no hint of it slowing down. I'm going to see if I can get into a playtest down the road and try it out for myself. What do you guys think of this? I'm always excited for new FPS concepts. I've been a fanboy of EVE for a long time, even though I haven't played it in quite some time. And I always like the idea of getting a more up close and personal representation of their universe. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, especially if you've played in one of the play sessions already. I'd be curious to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to...
Game looks boring as hell, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't play EVE Online. I'm also not super big on too much space stuff. I'm not even gonna say that because I like Destiny, I like First Ascendant, I like some parts of Starfield. I like some space stuff. I like Star Wars. I mean, those are things I actually gravitate to. This game, it looks like it has nothing too special about it to hold anyone, honestly. I'm like, why didn't you take the looter shooter route? This crap looks pretty meh. Like, it doesn't, the extraction idea is just like, to each his own, you know. Just say it's an extraction shooter. I'm not interested in extraction shooters. The shit is boring. Like, just give me a battle royale at that point. Shit's whack. There's only been like 2 extraction shooters I've actually been slightly interested in, and that's like Tarkov and I didn't remember the other one because I'm good on it. Anyways, man, y'all let me know what y'all think. I don't like sounding like this towards games because I love video games in general, but this game looks like absolute dog water. But anyways, man, y'all comment down below. We're on the road to 3K subs, man. I just keep it as honest as I can. If I don't feel something, I'm not gonna act like I do. I'm not that guy. So comment, like, subscribe. We're on the road to 3K subs. Let's get it. Let's go. Peace.